Welcome, Purnima, to another success story debrief session. Congratulations on making it to NUS. Little disclaimer, you did score a 740 on your route there, Q49, V41. How do you feel?
Thank you, DJ. I feel amazing. I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to the journey. I'm just happy.
Got it. It's visible on your face, and it's been a tremendous journey. In fact, it's wonderful that we worked in December of 2020 together. It's almost a year and more than that since then. And I'm glad that you remember that we worked together and of course told me you got into NUS. Talk to me about your GMAT journey, right? I think that was one part of the journey and it's very important too. So take me through that.
Sure. So I decided to give GMAT around mid of 2020. And I started collecting information and material from my friends, my peers, and got a little serious around September, October. And first I thought that let me just complete the entire material set that I have, and probably that will be sufficient. I did that. I actually completed, and then I went on to give mocks. So I gave a couple of mocks in the MBA website, the ones that are registered on the MBA website, and a couple of mocks from elsewhere, which were free. I was scoring decent, around 710, 720 as such. And that's, I was always, sort of following what e-GMAT was doing. I was reading your blogs, your approach that you had encouraged. I'd also done a lot of free sessions by Rajat.
Yeah.
And that's when I thought, let me give a Sigma mock that you guys had. So that's what I gave, and I got a C670.
Okay.
I did not want to take any chance with my GMAT score, and not really with the mindset of really registering with e-GMAT, but I just wanted to talk to a consultant and get to understand what was the gap. Then I reached out to you, and the approach that you explained, the kind of analysis, the diagnosis that you did of my score in Sigma, and where I am and what is needed, the interventions that you suggested, I found them to be something that if I had not taken them, my score could have gone north or south. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So I thought that that's the right call to take, and that's when I took one of your e-GMAT courses.
I have an interesting question here. So you were scoring 710, 720 and other mocks, and then suddenly you give the Sigma X mock and you score 670. How did you feel at that point? Did you feel that it's really hard, like I shouldn't believe this? What was going through your head at that point?
So, interestingly, I was very clear that, that's what is my base level. Could be that the tests are easy, or, maybe the test questions are from areas that I'm comfortable with, but I have really not experienced my discomfort zone so far.
Yeah.
And I knew that critical reasoning was something that I needed to work upon and cement. I knew that there were certain quant concepts that were not very clear to me, probably in the way the approach demands for GMAT. So I was not extremely surprised, but I was definitely worried that, okay, I just have 1.5 months to go now. What do I do? So yeah, that was it.
Got it. So I think that's a very, very important thing, just to have that sort of acceptance to what you're doing. Now, take me through the process, right? It's one thing to have the diagnosis, but it's another to kind of follow through on that diagnosis and do things right. So how did you go about doing the course? What was helpful? What was not?
So I remember you telling me to take another mock before I actually joined the course, just to get a fair idea of exactly where I am. And that mock too was also, not very great, not up to my expectations. And that's when we decided that I do need e-GMAT. I remember that first email from you that was so elaborate. It had, basis my score. I remember you having personalized the entire plan for me for the next 4 weeks, 5 weeks, like that. And I just followed the plan that you suggested. Just to give you a high level idea of the plan, I remember you said, do the cementing tests now. for RC, you said that, do the concepts first and then come on to the cementing test. And for something like, in quant also, there were different sections and you had really planned out in which sections do I need to go back to the basics, in which I do need to do an advanced level progress.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's very important to stick to that plan. Had I not shown confidence in that and really gone and started doing basics for everything, I would have just lost the time.
Or the other way around, or you just, start practicing randomly because you think you're at a certain level.
Correct. Yeah. In fact, in terms of the division of time, right? I remember having gotten a plan where you said that 2 to 3 hours a week and 5 hours on weekends, and this is how many tests you should be giving, not more, not less. Yeah. And then you're ending it with some of the MBA.com tests, because those will just help to also give an assessment. So that was amazing.
Got it. So I think that's when you started building on that, and your mock scores improved. Of course, you started scoring a 720, 730, and then eventually you scored a 740 on the test, which is frankly awesome. But you're also part of, I think, you were one of the first students part of the last mile cohort.
Right.
And that's when we just started it out, actually, frankly speaking, and that's pretty much where it started out from. That you take someone who's in their mid 600s and you just propel them to success. Now the final part of this was going into the test, right? So there are tons of things that you would have done right, from getting or doing well on mocks to taking the test. Can you just talk a little bit about that too?
So the part from the mock to the going into the test.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of things. In fact, I was really a diligent reader of some of the blogs, like GMAT Club blogs and your blogs. I had subscribed to them on email, so I would get whatever is updated. So I was just following the exam temperament, sort of like tips that you guys were giving and even other experts were giving. One thing that I did was I practiced one final mock before my exam, just before my exam, only to come into that practice exam mode.
Yeah.
And on the final day, I just practiced a couple of questions from each of these sections just to keep my brain running. And that was all. Then I gave a 4-5 hour gap. I was very calm. Into the exam hall, I just knew that, and I'm not exaggerating here, I just remember that, there were approaches that e-GMAT had actually taught me per se, that when you see a certain question, how do you really break down the question? So paraphrase the question first for yourself. Write down the facts, or even just mental, picture of those facts, and then do the A, B, C and arrive at the solution. I really did not reinvent the wheel there, to be very honest, DJ. Because, for me, it was just that approach that worked very well.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense to me. And the quizzes that you're talking about are basically warm-up quizzes right before your test. I think I'd also shared those with you, and they're super helpful. My question to you is that when you did well on the mocks as well, when you scored 720, 730, did you have the confidence in those mocks that you're going to do well on the test too?
Before e-GMAT, no, because my scores were fluctuating. But after e-GMAT, I actually saw my scores rising and cementing at a certain level. So I knew that even on one of the toughest tests I'm giving, and some of the toughest tests were actually e-GMAT tests, I was really cementing at 720 or 730. So I peaked at about 750 or 760. So I knew my range. So yes, very confident post that.
Got it. So you scored a 740. Now you're left with a difficult decision in December because round one is done. What did you do next after scoring 740? Other than, of course, writing me an email that you did, but then what was the next step for you?
That and going on a vacation to celebrate Christmas and So one thing that I did was I researched colleges where I wanted to be. That research was essentially going on even before GMAT, but now was the time to really get serious about shortlisting. I started more actively talking to alumni and adcom of different colleges, attending sessions, learning more. I wanted to work on my CV and my profile. That's where I reached out to an admissions consultant. And I first wanted to kind of apply in the round 2 and round 3 of a few colleges where I thought probability of getting through with a scholarship might be, decent enough. And yeah, that's what I did. And I went on with some of the admission processes back then. So yeah.
Got it. So now that a person who's scored a 740, of course, wants to do an MBA, right? How would you decide what MBA you want to do and what are your short-term and long-term goals post your MBA?
I'm sorry, there was a voice lag, so I couldn't get the last question.
Yeah, so the last question was, how do you define what your short-term and long-term goals were post the MBA? Like, you've decided to do an MBA,
Right.
What after that? How did you do that?
Okay, so first and foremost thing that's very important before deciding your short-term and long-term goals are to really evaluate your own profile. Look at your areas of interest and your strengths and your weaknesses and where you really shine. What is your passion, right? So I actually sort of did a storylining of my own journey. What have I really done throughout my 10-year career? What was I good at? What was I passionate about? And where do I want to stay? Or do I really want to do a career change, a track change? So that evaluation of my own CV is where I understood, where do I want to go in short term and what I want to do in long term. And it was, again, not very surprising. I really wanted to continue doing what I'm doing. But it was very clear. I wanted to take a global role. I wanted to shift to an international space where I have more complex, more large scale work projects to do, or, work culture to be part of. So that was how I arrived.
Got it. So I think MBA applications have very interesting essays, right? It's a very, very interesting process in itself. What are your takeaways from this entire process, and share your experience doing this too?
I certainly researched about these essays, what essays do they ask? I had a sort of like a lot of peer learning from people who have already done it to understand what's their approach been. I think it's very important to, I mean, one thing that I would like to really highlight from my journey is research is, it's very important, whether it's for your GMAT or it's for your MBA journey. A good structured research really helps. So I spoke to my admissions consultant, understood his point of view, and you wouldn't be surprised that I actually read a couple of free PDFs. Some of them were actually available on mba.com to understand how to structure your essays, and understood the common themes that colleges were looking for. Of course, one of them being, you have to be very sincere and honest in your answers.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to be very sharp with what you're saying, and you have to illustrate them with examples. You cannot just write something that you cannot substantiate, right?
True.
So, and bring out a story that's unique to you, which, you just talks about you, and someone who's on the other side of the table actually understands you through your essays. So I did all of research, and so those inputs really helped me draft something, which of course I was not even happy with my first draft. I'm a long form writer, but I really improvised over a lot of practice and worked.
Got it. The final part or the piece of the puzzle is the interview, right? Any takeaways from that? Some things that you would want to share about the process that you learned from it?
Right. So one very important thing that I would recommend every person who's applying for an MBA is, of course, understand yourself and your profile very well. That's being self-aware about what you have done, what you want to do, and your strengths and weaknesses really helps. And the second thing is, research not just for the sake of researching about a certain college, but you really have to take deep interest in what they are doing. Like, you might have to follow them on Instagram, enjoy their social media updates, and read their blogs, read their journals, even follow professors who are doing a certain kind of research, try to attend their sessions. But yeah, do a lot of research about the college, the country, your own profile, and that gets you covered. Because, and then at the end of the day, I think, each of these interviews, for me, it was very relaxed. It was very conversational. So they like you and they're there to know more about you.
Yeah, because I mean, if you've gotten to right the end, they've gone through your application, they really just want to get to know you better and see if there's like that match, if there's a fit for that school. So I think that's very, very well said. Once again, congratulations on getting into NUS. It's wonderful, and I know that you've gotten a scholarship from there too. We are so proud to have you do this, and once again, thank you for doing this.
Thank you, DJ. It has been my pleasure, and I hope to stay in touch with you.
Absolutely. So